Hi everyone, it's Jill Foster here for Penny Black. Thanks for joining us today as we take a peek at a few new products from our newest collection called Peaceful Winter. This new collection includes both stamps and dies, but in today's video we will take a closer look at the creative dies. And all of these new products will be available in our online store beginning Friday, October 13th. And before we begin, I just wanted to mention that this video is designed to help you take a closer peek at our new collection and share some tips and hints as to how some of the cards were created. But don't worry, we will also have instructional videos coming soon that feature some of these new products and card designs. And if you're looking for a how-to tutorial or card making demonstration right now, be sure to scroll through the videos here on our YouTube channel, as there are many that feature techniques that can be used with these stamps and dies too. Our first creative die set that we'll look at today is called Winter Wardrobe, and it is so delightful to use in so many different ways. Here I use several of the elements from the die cut set together to create the look of like a coat rack with everything hanging on it. I love the addition of the cat sleeping on top, and if you'll look closely, you'll even see I added one of the die cut hats from this set on his head. That's another fun thing with this die set, is using all the different wardrobe items to embellish critters and other stamped and die cut images you may already have. And if critters aren't your thing, here's a more elegant, cozy card idea featuring the same creative die set. And before I forget, I just wanted to mention that you will see a complete list of product numbers used on each card shown on screen in light gray. Once this release is made available on Friday, October 13th, any of those product numbers can be searched in the Penny Black online store or website, which I've linked for you below in the YouTube description box. Oh, and if you can't tell, I'm having lots of fun with this set Winter Wardrobe die set. Here I used a few pieces to embellish the sentiment on my tag. So speaking of this tag, here it is again. I am really excited about this next die set. It's called Do Not Open. It's great for creating holiday tags, and I've shown one as an embellishment on my card, but there is so much more you can do with this die set no matter the season. So I think it's helpful to see the actual die. So here's just a quick snapshot of mine. The largest die in the upper left-hand corner can be used to cut a basic tag in this great shape, and then the other two smaller pieces can be used with or without it to add the frames. So for example, on this next picture you'll see I ran it through my die cutting machine as shown on the left to yield the great scallop frame tag. And this could be used as is, or you can layer it right on top of the solid tag shape and they will match up perfectly. For a more simple frame, I use the smaller square within the larger tag shape. And if you send holiday photo cards, this would be a great way to frame up your family photo. It could even be removable from the front of your card, so it could be used as an ornament for your recipient. You can also use these dies without the tag shape, as shown here. Or you could take this scalloped piece, this scalloped frame on top of the tag, as shown on the left, or just use the square on a standard panel of cardstock to create a little window for a card. There are really so many different configurations you can come up with this set, and I just love dies like this, and I think they can add so much to so many different card designs and styles. So here I use this die set to create an entire set of tags. These could be attached to simple holiday gift bags or used as ornaments or just added to the front of a card. So speaking of, here's a way to use this die on the front of a card. It's a great home for a sentiment, and it can then easily be embellished with other die cuts and a stamped background. So our next die is called Christmas Elegance, and it definitely lives up to its name. To create this card, I used my paper trimmer to cut a triangle around the die cutting, and this allowed me to layer and move this design on my page with other die cut trees. And this scene is actually quite easy to make. Just die cut your elements, paint or ink them, and then begin layering them onto a card base. And I like that with dies, I can keep playing and rearranging until I'm totally happy with the look. And I recommend cutting and coloring several, and then you can come up with a variety of different scenes and arrangements using those dies. And I guess I went a little crazy with this die. Here are two more card ideas. On the left, I again trimmed around the die cutting and also backed it with a dark green cardstock. And on the right, I used the die cutting directly onto my background panel, and I added colors on top using an ink blending tool with a foam pad. This next tree die set is also really quite versatile, and I love that it has two sizes of the same design. And this is great for creating depth in your winter scenes. And it's easy with this set to achieve the snowy look using the layering pieces that are included with the set. For our next creative die set called Winter Village, I die cut all my elements from watercolor paper and then painted them with Distress Ink reinkers used as watercolors. And this scene really reminds me of like early Christmas morning before anyone has ventured out of the house and everything's just peaceful and covered with a blanket of snow. And you can never have too many snowflake dies in your stash when you're making your holiday and winter cards. And I really like the bold, sort of thick designs of this trio of snowflakes. And on this card, to create a tone-on-tone look, I inked my background with an ink blending tool with foam pads, and then also inked the snowflakes with the same colors, but applied a lighter pressure so that the color was not quite as dark as the background. And those tiny snowflakes are also a part of the set. They're actually the center of the snowflake that you can see up in the upper left-hand corner. So next we have a couple of new die cut sentiments in this release, and here's a look at one of those. It's called Peace. I find this font really pleasing to the eye and just sort of unique, and I think it looks great up in the sky of any stamped or die cut snowy scene. And who can't resist some polar bears? On this card, I kept my die cutting quite simple, just adding a tiny touch of shading to the ground using a Distress Ink reinker used as a watercolor. The background was inked with an ink blending tool and foam pads, and to create the lines in the background, I applied ink using an ink blending tool and foam pads along the edge of a piece of thin typing paper, moving it in a sort of starburst or sunburst alignment across the sky. Now in this new collection, Peaceful Winter, we have two new wreath dies, and the first that you can see here is called Wreath and Bow. And I kept this card really simple, and I just love the twiggy look to the branches on that wreath. And here I used that same wreath and also the bow on a sort of cutesy style card. And this design is a great way to get more from this die set. It can be used to send thinking of you or hello cards even after the holidays. And here is our second wreath called Holly Wreath. For this first card, I kept along with that cutesy critter theme and added some of those smooching pups. And to keep the design of the die cut more neutral and winter themed, I just trimmed off the bells before painting and inking the die. And I think this would also be great for like a winter anniversary card or maybe even Valentine's Day if it's really cold and snowy where you live in February. And then another great thing about both of these wreath sets is that they are the same size. So you can layer them together to create a very full wreath as I've done here. Our next die, Santa Sleigh, makes a bold impact on card designs, and it's easy to add to stamped and painted scenes because it's just big enough to put foam squares on the back of it so you can pop it up. And to create my card, I painted my background using Distress Ink reinkers used as watercolors. And once dry, I applied ink to the sky using an ink blending tool and foam pads. I then stamped the trees and added a hand-trimmed snowbank and, of course, that Santa sleigh up in the sky. Our creative die, Holly and Berry Branch, is a very classic design. Here I cut mine from watercolor paper and then painted it with Distress Ink reinkers used as watercolors. And once dry, I used a finger-sized sponge dauber to add extra shading using inks. And with this die, you can also easily trim apart the leaves and berries and the elements to create your own embellishments that perfectly fit your card design and layout. And I've done this for the grouping of leaves and berries shown on the bottom right-hand corner of this card. Actually, on this next card, I also trimmed the leaves and used them to embellish our new sentiment die called We Wish You A. And I've kept on this card my main panel in a neutral and golden color scheme, but I think the sentiment die would also be fun colored in shades of green, as if it was a Christmas tree with the star on top. Other Christmas dies could then be layered with it to add to the effect. So thank you so much for tuning in today to take a look at the new creative dies from our newest collection called Peaceful Winter. All of the new stamps and dies will be available in our online store beginning Friday, October 13th. And if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. You can also connect with Penny Black on our website, blog, Facebook page, on Instagram, Twitter, shop our online store, and see lots of card making tutorials here on our YouTube channel. And I link to all of these down in the YouTube description box below. Happy die cutting!